It's Brentford Library is where that's where we send them.
Now you got one.
Now I got one for
See
you.
that?
Yeah, that's interesting. And the other one is like when I was well, I think you have to be in the county.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Everything will go perfect.
It'd be nice. It's two streets down here.
Well, good evening, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. If you want to take your seat.
Please do something else. I'm sure you're present too.
Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. We're going to call this Vote Center Advisory Committee meeting, February 8th, 2023 meeting to order. I'm Michael Scarpello. I'm the Dallas County Elections Administrator. I've got several of my staff members here with me. We're going to be assisting tonight. I'm Melissa Kuba, my Deputy Elections Administrator, Petra Laird, our Elections Analyst. Kevin here, you guys all know Kevin, the GIS Analyst. And I got my communications folks, or my IT guy, my voting sites, Kyle in the back, Jayla, communications team, and I think Nate's here too, somewhere, probably, and oh, there's Esmeralda too. So, a lot of staff members, if you guys got any questions afterwards, they're all here to help. Our agenda for vote, as far as members, if you've got the meeting on, you might want to mute your speaker. As far as BCAC members, we've got people here live in person, and then we've got several folks online, which is fine. That's great. The only issue that we want to make a little bit of an adjustment from the last meeting is that we had some folks who were not members speaking during the meeting, during the last meeting. So only BCAC members can speak during the meeting. The general public can have a chance at the end of the meeting during the public comment section. And so Esmeralda is going to be kind of monitoring. So when it's your, if you would like to speak, raise your hand to acknowledge, state your name and your organization, and then, okay, we'll get on with it. I know we got a little bit of work to do. So once again, thanks for coming. I appreciate your help. So our agenda for tonight is to recap the previous meeting. Then analysis and approval of Group 1 Vote Center location. I know some of you aren't sure what that means, but we'll try that in more detail. And then discussion of next steps. So recap of previous meeting. We had a discussion and vote on a dual or single model vote center plans. And the vote was to continue to explore both models rather than one or the other. There was a discussion on vote center evaluation criteria. We briefly discussed, how we look at the location, parking, the building, room factors. We reviewed our vote center evaluation tool, our iPads that we're going out into the field with, and how we're surveying these locations to get good information about them. And then we had a presentation on GIS data available, because keep in mind there's voter registration data, and then there's turnout data, and then there's U.S. Census Bureau data. The three of them are all a little bit different, and they speak a little bit different languages. So what are we going to do tonight? Analysis of Group 1 vote center. So what does this all mean? So I want to kind of explain the approach here. There's a lot of data, a lot of information to potentially review. So I kind of boiled this down to, we can boil the ocean. I'm sure you've all heard that expression. And that approach would most likely result in analysis paralysis. There's just too much data about all of these locations to try to analyze over 500 locations all at once. You know, there's multiple potential methodologies to evaluate these vote centers. There's just this abundance of data. And I can tell you, I've been down this path before, and you just end up not getting anywhere if you try that approach. So for tonight, we're going to let the voters vote with their feet. I think that voters vote with their feet approach results in, we're just going to try to take low-hanging fruit. In other words, we're going to review the high turnout locations that pass our evaluation criteria. We're not going to introduce or discuss unnecessary information to make some initial easy decisions. So I'll give you an example. DCCC, what's the official name? It's a Disciple Central Community Church. High turnout location. It may not be perfect in some way. Maybe the ramp getting in is not the right degree of angle. It's highly likely we're going to disqualify something that popular of a location based on minor technicality. I said highly, okay, highly unlikely that we're going to disqualify something. Long day.
Wow. Come on,
Wanna make
Mike.
sure you guys are awake.
Get over here, Michael, okay? Come on.
Elizabeth keeps me on this all the time. So it's highly unlikely we would disqualify that location such as that. Because the people have decided we want to use this location. So what we want to do with this group 1 is we're going to take a look at our 150 highest voter turnout locations based off the May 2021, May 2022 elections. Basically ranking them on use the average between those two elections, ranking them 1 through 150. And then look at those locations and evaluate them and hopefully, pass the easy ones, approve the easy ones. And so, so the methodology for tonight, ultimately resulting in looking at 150, but we'll do it in stages. So we'll take the 50 highest turnout locations, we'll plot them on a map. And on that map, you'll see green dots. And what those green dots are, is that means it's a location that has been surveyed by us recently. It has a passing grade according to our criteria, and it's available. They're willing to be a polling place. A light green dot is a location that has not been surveyed yet, but it is available. So we can't tell if it has a passing grade yet because we haven't done a new survey. But it is available, and it's likely to be, more than likely to be turned into a green dot. But we won't know until we do the survey. Then we'll have orange dots. And what an orange dot is, it's a location that is located within 0.7 miles, 3/4 of a mile of another location. So that means, hey, maybe we got 2 locations that maybe we don't need them. And then we've got red dots. Red dots are locations that have been either disqualified by us because we've done an ADA survey and we said this is just does not pass the muster, or it has some other fault that makes it not a good location. Or they've told us we don't want to be a polling place anymore. You named us a polling place back. We were one of the 469 back in 2019, but we don't want to do it. So we're going to DQ them on, they don't want to do it. So the order of business would be to vote yes, no First, the very easiest one, the lowest hanging fruit is someone doesn't want to be a polling place. I think it's pretty easy for us to say, we don't, let's vote to, reject those. And then vote yes, no, to tentatively approve the green and light green locations. And when I say tentatively, keep in mind, this is just kind of a progress report. Because at the very end, we'll kind of have a full plan and we'll have a final vote. So we'll, right tonight, next week, we'll be just kind of moving along, looking at those that we're likely to approve in the end. And then after looking at the reds and looking at the greens, then look at the tougher calls, and those are the oranges. Those are the locations within 3/4 of a mile. And then after doing that for the first 50, we'll plot 51 through 100. We'll plot 101 through 150, and we'll do the same. We'll just kind of do the same thing. I know you probably have some questions about that. So hold those questions, because I think those questions, it will become much clearer as we start to do it. And then maybe I'll pause and give a chance for questions. Methodology in the future. For the next meeting, we'll continue to do the same thing. Plot 151 through 200, 201 through 250, etc. And now what's going to happen is these decisions are going to become less obvious because it's not such low-hanging fruit anymore. There's locations that are going to be by each other. There's locations that the turnout maybe isn't as high. There's locations, there's additional information that we might want added to those maps. On an incremental basis. So for instance, hey, we've got, maybe I want to see some Census Bureau information, or maybe I want to see some economic data about a location. Maybe I want to see the bus lines, so that we will add the information as it's needed as the decisions get tougher. Other factors we'll track. So as we tentatively accept locations, we will measure what our capacity is. So if we approve a location, or let's say 10 locations tonight, we know that the capacity of those locations is 1,000 each. Well, we know we've got the capacity for 10,000. And so we can measure that up against what our needs are for a presidential election. So we'll track that. We'll look for gaps in coverage. For instance, the distance of person have to travel. We might lay out all these locations and say, geez, we got some holes. We got some holes in this area of town. Where the distance of travel people are too far. We need to reevaluate one of our existing locations, or we may need to recruit new locations. We gotta shop around. We gotta find some more locations that make it easier for people to vote, so they don't have to travel too far. And then, like I said, as we get higher and higher, those decisions are going to get a little tougher, and we might need, more to be determined. What else do we need? So, but the idea for tonight is to make some progress, get some things approved, at least tentatively, because then we can start to prepare for May. If I approve 120 locations tonight, I know that there's 120 judges we can start contacting. I know there's 120 contracts that I can get out to start to make progress to prepare for the May election. So it's important that we do make that progress, because if this whole thing takes too long, it pushes back the start of everything that we need to do, and it makes the success of the May election less likely. Okay? So, wanted to talk a little bit about the location analysis criteria. So we're going to these locations. We have on these iPads, I think we should go ahead.
I apologize, but I have a procedural question.
Sure.
I think one of the first emails that we received said that there had to be 36 members of the commission present in person for a quorum. Is that correct?
Yes, but keep in mind that anything and so that will be very true when we take our final vote, when we give a recommendation to Commissioners Board. Up until then, everything is tentative.
Okay,
And so that those quorum requirements are probably not necessary up until then.
yeah, I just want to make sure.
Good question.
I don't want to keep doing this if we don't.
I mean, in the end, we're gonna probably take one official act. Up until then, they're tentative decisions. So this grading rubric that they've gone out with iPads, and now how many have we done? About 70 locations, something like that?
Yeah,
Okay. So we're still getting momentum up, you know, the ice storms really put us back quite a bit last week. We lost the week basically. But we continue to survey. We have those 90 questions on the iPads, pictures of those locations, videotapes, measurements of the, you know, how many plugs they have, what's the square footage, blah, blah, blah. We're putting that into a big database. We're evaluating the data once it gets into the database. And so there's a lot of information in there, but there's 40 critical survey questions. You know, some aren't critical, and some others aren't, and some are more important than others. And so the critical survey questions, we gave a weight of 1 to 5, so we can score these locations. And then they can receive a minimum of 76 points and a maximum of 152 points. Now, I can tell you this, we're still playing, this is all experimental. We're still kind of figuring out that the weight of these locations, some of it's, you know, the weight of the criteria and getting everything figured out to really get a good grading for. But so far we've got something that's working pretty well. And so then they're put in result criteria, categories. And so our team, our voting sites team, Kyle and his team, they're saying, here's a qualifying location, qualified, it meets all the criteria. Here's a questionable location, it meets some criteria, and it has some other issues that might be able to be mitigated. There's some things that like questions about is the secondary door locked? Well, yeah, the door is locked, but we can put a door stop in to keep it open. You know, so that would be a mitigating factor. A ramp that you know, maybe a location doesn't have a ramp, but it's really a great location. We can get a temporary ramp, you know, that kind of thing. And so that's a questionable location. And then there's a disqualifying, it doesn't meet a critical requirement and the issues cannot be mitigated. So examples of that, there's no parking lot. You know, there's just not adequate parking for people to park there. Parking does not have accessible parking, you know, that's a pretty big one. No accessible ramps, no public restrooms, no power. I mean, obviously they have to have power because we have electronic voting machines. So that's just an example of disqualifying criteria. So discussion on next steps. So that's we'll talk about that at the end. So now we want to get into talking about locations. So I'm going to quit sharing and I'm going to turn it over to Melissa to go ahead and share her screen. And while she's doing that, any other questions about anything I've said so far? Right here.
Are the first 50 locations have been surveyed? Or not?
Pardon me?
The first 50 locations that we're going to discuss now, have they been surveyed?
I think there's been over 50 surveyed, but not necessarily. I mean, we're trying to go in the order 1 through 500. But because we can't always get into a location, we might have to skip, right? So we couldn't get 40 through 50 because that school district wouldn't let us in or something like that. And so we're trying to survey in that order, but we don't necessarily not a 1-for-1.
So when we discuss
I know for a fact you may not have surveyed 7 of these because our school district was closed last week. And 7 of these are my school districts.
Yeah. Perfect example. Question? Hebrew.
We have a class that we're being asked to perform. And we're also being met with a sense of urgency because of the pending election but this is a task that may require more time than May will allow for. In that we've got a number of locations that we're going to have to review. In that we have, at a minimum, locations that we're given a very narrow set of criteria in that, as I recall, we're only looking at the May elections from 2021 and 2022, but no prior election information that we would have on file for those established voting locations from 2019 and before, so that we could index the usage of those same site vote locations.
We do have that information available. It's in our spreadsheet and then can reference it. We're not using that for prioritizing which ones we want to talk about first.
Right, and that's kind of narrowing the scope of what we have to evaluate those sites with. 2021 and 22 is literally coming out of the pandemic. And after people started getting vaccinations, that may not give everybody the best sense of, is this the best view of this vote center?
Yeah, but I make a counter argument that anything before November 2019 is invalid because that was a precinct polling place and not a vote center.
Most of the vote center locations that were incorporated in 2019 were existing.
But
Voting-
it's still invalid because
It's not invalid when the places are the same sites that were used, minus the exception of the early vote
but
locations.
under a completely different set of rules. The rules prior to 2019 was you must go to this location.
And
The
so,
rules since then and the rules that we live under now are you can go to any location.
right, so scoring that vote center using as a baseline the voting precinct data would give us an indication of how extensively is this usage today as opposed to the valid indices that existed prior to the vote center.
And we do have that information available as we have to make those tough calls and we need to reference more information. Remember that the purpose of today in particular is to make the easy calls. And I can't imagine that our Redeemer Church that is our #1 location in every election is good, that historic 2018 date on our Redeemer is going to make any difference on what we decide tonight.
But if we're gonna then get down to vote center 324, that may be pertinent for some of those vote centers that end up lower on the profile.
Can we
If we're
cross that
using-
bridge when we come?
Well,
to
we're
it?
kind of here, because if we're gonna use the criteria, then let's be consistent in this application.
If you could listen closer, I talked about that, didn't I? I said, as we get to the tougher decisions, we will bring in more information.
But we should have the same criteria available throughout so that we can see the consistency or the variance from vote center 1 through vote center 425.
I think
They're not all the same.
Not all the same.
I think that's what I would term analysis paralysis.
It can't be paralysis if we don't never get to look at it.
Well, let's just get going on today.
Please.
Diane?
Ingrid, I understand, appreciate your concern, okay? But when we start looking at the map, it's the locations that become important. And so for me, the first 50 are gonna be pretty simple to deal with. We can ask for comparative information going back to these the ones we're looking at now, when we get deeper in, so that we're getting both, right? Are you okay with that?
I say if we're gonna start, we should start with everything being given in the same way. We can go back and look back at a point, but I want to articulate tonight, while we're getting started, that other information that we don't have is important tonight, as well as when we get to Vote Center 425 or Vote Center 450. We still need that information. I'm articulating that tonight so that it's on the record.
Okay, thank you.
If I could just, hopefully it'll help you out a little bit, but, so there are 7, I'm David Pate, I'm with Richardson Independent School District. There's 7 locations on this list that are Richardson ISD locations. 2 of them, Park Hill Junior High and Brentfield Elementary, are both in this top 50 list. They are literally across the street from each other. I'm going to argue strongly that we do not need 2 our schools that are literally across the street from each other as vote centers. I don't care at this point what happened pre-vote center days, but we don't need 2 locations literally across the street.
That's a little different argument, in all due respect, because the data may drive the conclusion. We can shut one of those down. I've got some vote centers literally just across Polk from me that I can make the exact same argument for. But there's other data that's necessary, that's essential. And if we're going to look at this in an objective, formulaic way, we need the formula to be applied 1 through whatever, as opposed to when we get to
Can I move
250.
that we start this process and go through some of these and let's see how it works?
And I think that's what we're gonna do. And so I think what's gonna become apparent is that information, at some point, you're gonna say, I kind of like further information. And
Michael,
yes.
I'm sorry, I had my hand up. I'm not sure if you were aware.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not watching it, so we'll have to make sure that some, Esmeralda or someone, when someone's got their hand up online, let's make sure we acknowledge them. Okay?
Thank you. Thank
ahead.
you. My question is procedural. What is the role in the VAC versus the SEAC? It was my I thought that the SEAC was making a recommendation that the VCAC was providing their input, but the recommendation came from SEAC as they are sworn in, appointed commission.
Remember, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, but the issue, the VCAC is the recommending body. Members of SEAC are part of VCAC, so they have a voice. But this is the body that will make a recommendation to Commissioners Court, and Commissioners Court will then be the deciding body on any on whatever vote centers, they're involved in. Sure.
Elaine Campbell, I'm on the SEAC. My question is, so you were saying that as we are voting, like for example, whatever we decide with this first 50, then you'll be at a position to start recruiting people for these. So with that time, with the timelines in mind, what if we don't get to the last 20 or something? And you're saying there's a timeline. Are we saying that those would automatically just be approved, or how would that be managed? Do you understand? Do you understand the question?
Well, let's put it this way. If this body never makes a recommendation and Commissioners Court never makes a new ruling, we have the existing 2019 plan. So that's the backup default.
Okay.
Right? And so for this body, as we go through and we approve, we go through 150, 200, whatever, 300, 400, whatever. At some point in time, you may, this is kind of how we're exploring the dual model. You may say, boy, I don't know, we've got 350 locations. Capacity is 10 times what we need. Maybe we should stop for the mail election. We bounced it, or you know what? We still don't feel like we have enough. We got to keep going to 400, or we may end up at 450. Again. And so it's kind of moving it's a way to proceed in a methodical manner to get something done, rather than trying, like I said, rather than boil the ocean, trying to look at all 450 at one time is nearly impossible. Okay? So what you see on the screen, the very first 50 turnout locations for the, can you zoom out a little bit? Well, this is just to give an intro. This is the 50 top locations in turnout for the 2021 and 2022 May elections. Of those 50 locations, there's one location, number 16 there, that has been rejected. And so I want to get an explanation of why that one's been rejected, and then we can maybe take an action on that one.
This list,
Yeah, I'm trying to understand what you're saying too. What's the objective?
I'm trying to figure out, we got this group one vote center locations list.
I don't have that in front of me.
Those numbers correspond, the numbers on this list correspond to the numbers on the screen.
That's what I'm asking.
Can someone give me a copy?
So rejection is the red dot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like it doesn't.
That is what number 16 is.
Yeah.
So number 16, Cedar Hill Government Center has been rejected for a reason. So what is that reason?
They don't want us to use the location.
You know, what is it?
We've been using the rec center for quite some time. We haven't used the government center. Actually tell you the last time we used the government center.
Okay, next.
There you go. In 2020.
Okay, so they said no.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
So I'm open for a motion on that red number 16.
I move that we take them off the list.
Yeah, I second.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Okay, now we want to move to the green dots. So what we have here is a list of green dots. These are locations that were used in 2021 and 22, had high turnout at every one of those locations. They are not within 3/4 of a mile of another location. And from the dark green dots are ones that we've surveyed, and the light green dots are ones that we haven't surveyed. So I'm going to entertain a motion to tentatively approve those. The green dots being less tentative, if you will. And the light green dots, we may come back to you, because we might say, oh, well, you tentatively approved number 41, and the survey came back and it's just no good. Or they come back to us and they said they're not interested in it. So before the final plan, we may readdress any of these for varying reasons. But from our standpoint, these are all good locations, and they're good to go for tentative approval.
Bonnie Wells and SEAC, I move that we accept the dark green
Hold on.
dots.
No, I think people have.
Let's see if we got a second. We'll have some discussion.
Second.
Got a second? So discussion.
If I could just see on the dark green dots, if you can scroll back up. Let me see the top of the screen, please. In the 48 and 29, or 40, yeah, 48 and 29, are either one of those dark green or are they both orange?
We check in our spreadsheet here.
They're orange.
They're both orange? Okay. That's all the discussion I need at this point.
Question back.
Amy Deemer, City of Irvington. I don't know what the green dots are. I have nothing in front of me that shows what the green dots are,
Yeah, we can't see them from
and
there.
I can't tell what they are on the screen. I can tell you Richardson Civic Center is not available because it had a fire, so that's, you can't approve it.
Yeah, that's number 4 on there. It's a light green dot, a
But I
non-survey.
can't see, I don't have anything that shows me what.
I can just see it on the screen.
I was actually gonna ask you that. Was that fire already
Yeah.
over? Because I know they couldn't open it.
No, they're pretty good.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those ones where likely to turn red. We have to have first, there's this issue, if it's a great location, we don't know what the timeline is for when it's going to be reconstructed. We've got an alternate location that will probably, but we just need more information on it for now. So it would be a tentative green. From what I understand, it's probably not coming back anytime soon. But we don't want to offend City of Richardson for they've been great codes for us, right? So,
You're not gonna offend me. I can tell you it's not available.
okay. And do you have any idea on the timeline?
It's permanently not available.
So if you would say make that red.
Yeah, exactly.
And I do have one other location actually that we had discussed this afternoon that also has to be turned red. Location 36, Addison Fire Station. The town of Addison has indicated the fire stations are no longer available as options.
There's 2 fire stations.
What number?
Yeah, in the top 50, I think one is only
36.
number 36.
Fire stations.
So just for clarification, we talked about number 4 turning red, which was Richardson Civic Center, and number 36 Addison Fire Station, number 1.
Is this supposed to have dots on it?
It should be color coded.
Agree, that's good.
They can't see it. I have a question.
Yes.
Elaine Campbell from the CF. My question is for the Richardson people. That my mother actually voted at the. It's like, she's like, all her, like, last 40 years.
She's City of Richardson, I'm the school
Okay,
district.
sorry, yeah.
It's okay.
So my question is, is there a permanent replace? I want to be able to explain, I can ask you after, I need to explain it over to go. Is there a permanent replacement?
No, you need to direct your question to Mr. Scarpello. Our civic center is not available.
So is Richardson having he's suggesting another?
Oh, so there are
So I
other,
have suggestions.
We had a replacement location that was fantastic for this November election. We'll probably nominate that as the replacement.
They are not,
Oh, they
they
said
are
no.
not going to,
Really?
I told you that in the email.
Maybe my question is.
I offered you another.
That's not the problem.
So we will explore that.
We have to go and find.
Remember, what we're trying to do is get through some easy stuff.
No, but
I understand our.
saying no when there's.
So I'm glad you brought up the number 4.
Yeah.
sorry, so one last one. If they're light green on there, you've already,
People can hear you and,
oh. They're light green. If they are light green or any shade of green, they definitely have passed they're outside of 3/4 of a mile.
That's
correct. Okay, thank you very much.
Basic question, why aren't these dots on this list?
So we have that information. These guys have it on their spreadsheets.
Well, that's not
And they-
helpful,
and-
because I can't see the whole
And
spreadsheet.
they-
Do you want to sit here?
They can go ahead and put
Yeah.
that.
No, it doesn't matter. I can see it when they blow it up, but I can't see south.
So we can put that, they can share their screen with their detailed spreadsheet that has all that. We won't share that.
Michael, unfortunately, online, I only see one red dot, and that's 16. Is there another red dot on that
No.
page?
There's only one red dot.
So at this point, that is the only location that's being recommended to close at this point.
There's been one on this originally, but there's been 2 added. So this afternoon, we heard from Addison Fire Station, number 36, and then Amy brought up Richardson Civic Center, where she confirmed that it is number 4, which you also be read. So there's 3 now of the top 50 that would be out.
Okay. Thank you for that summary.
David, Richardson Independent School District, Park Hill and Brentfield,
Yes, ma'am.
are they not going to be available or do you know?
Those are orange ones, Bonnie. We have those to discuss.
Yeah, those are orange. They're not
Okay.
discussed in this one, and that's because of proximity.
Okay. And my next question is number 28, which is Valley Ranch Library.
I can't even find that. Yeah, I know that.
That's the Valley Ranch.
Okay.
Yes. That is a horrible location.
What?
It is a horrible location. There
So
is,
let me just say this. Let's try this. After we go through this first week of tentative approval, we will send you guys, because we wanted to have this first meeting to kind of familiarize you with the process, right? We will send you guys tomorrow or the next day, full list of this tentative decisions that have been made with all the information on it. And then you can come back to us next week and say, I reviewed the list. This is a horrible location.
Okay.
I think we should reverse that decision on number 42 or whatever it was.
I'd like to hear why she thinks it's horrible,
Great.
because it's in my district, it's in my city. It's, my council is gonna want it, and the commissioners court wants it.
The judge that worked there for many years, Jazar Hosta, it's always been really, really hard.
Really, really
Yes.
hard because
Talk about Valley Ranch.
Valley Ranch Library.
I'm not hearing a
Yes.
reason.
It's been difficult for voters to get in and out of and to park.
It's a huge parking spot.
Okay, ma'am, I'm just telling you what I was told.
Okay, well, go
Okay.
based off what you're told, but I go based off what I
Okay,
know.
calm
So
down.
that's the type of information that, let's say next week.
Ugh.
So we'll send out that.
And don't take it based on what people have heard. Take it based on what people know.
And so I think, remember, everything's tentative. So here's how I think a discussion like that would play out, right? We would send out this list, here's the tentative approvals. You guys can look at them and you review them, and Bonnie would say, this place stinks, and she'd come back next week and she'd bring that back to us. And then we would research it, we would, do our flyover, we dig deep, right? We get more opinions, we talk to the city, and then probably the next week, we probably take an action. And so we just have to, remember, we're trying to find the easy ones, and the hard ones we'll come back to. Question back here.
I mean, I was at the first meeting and we talked about, that the assessment team goes out and they have a checklist.
Yes.
And they're looking at all of the things that are necessary in order to make a great voting center,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So I'm under the assumption at this point that number 28, Valley Ranch Library, that y'all don't have a problem with, apparently earned a green mark based on a checklist. So,
I'm hearing it was approved. It was-
okay, so it met all of the criteria.
Correct.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay,
So let's go.
yeah, exactly.
It wasn't it wasn't green just for no reason.
That's right.
Call it green. Some people don't like it, some people
That's
think it's
right,
red.
correct.
It's green, based on something.
Correct.
Did we have a
Let's go.
comment?
That answered my question.
Let's go.
Yeah.
It's green.
Back here, next.
Yes, I was wondering, just a suggestion, could we do these in order by city? Is there a particular reason it's?
We could have picked any number of ways to sort these.
Yeah.
Could have went by city, commissioner's district, vote center number. We chose turnout, because turnout is, the voters have decided, let the voters, they voted with their feet. And so we,
Hell is the number one.
yes,
For the mailers.
yeah, for the mailers. And so that's the way we chose to sort these. Yeah. We don't want to ignore voters.
No, you don't. I just happen to know number 11. I know there's a big turnout there, but that's not really a good place to have it.
If you scroll to number 11, so I can see it, please.
Michael, can you tell me why Disciple Central is listed? I know it's number 5. What is the purpose on here? I'm sure it's a green dot. Why was it listed? What criteria did it meet?
So DCCC is the number 5 in turnout. It hasn't been surveyed yet, so that's why it's a light green. So it's a tentative approval. We will survey it, and if it's most likely find a great location.
That's not true, Michael. That's probably one of the highest percentages. Disciple Central Church in DeSoto?
He said it's not surveyed by his team.
Oh, it's not surveyed. Oh, gotcha. Okay. Okay.
So it's
Thank
a
you.
tentative green for now. We know it's a high turnout location.
Yeah, it's a very high turnout.
People love
Okay.
it.
Absolutely.
We'll see if the survey is.
Okay.
Problem. So, any other discussion? I can't remember what the motion was. Okay.
So approved and.
Yeah, we had a second motion.
Okay.
No, I think the motion was to accept all of the greens, right? Tentatively accept the dark greens or all the greens?
Dark and light.
Don't remember.
It was dark and light, that's all.
Okay.
I'll make a new motion to accept all the dark greens and light greens.
Okay, we have
And
a,
I second that motion.
okay, we have a motion to
Well,
accept.
can I,
Go ahead, Billy.
okay, yeah, thank you. I thought we were, okay, before we we're accepting the light green as well, correct?
Yes.
Well, I have a question on number 50. That's the North Dallas High School. And it's in comparison, my question is, comparing it to, can you move the screen down so I can see the number for Reverchon? Well, you know what? I can see it on my deal here. Okay, 43. Yeah, Reverchon. So my question is, before we accept the green, all of the greens, 50 is North Dallas High School. I guess I want to know why that one, I guess, it was surveyed, I guess, but why is that one the green and 43, which is Reverchon, in orange? I know we're not at the orange, I know, but because of proximity. One is a high school, and I thought those had some limitations or issues compared to a recreation center. And I believe Reverchon is has a high turnout as well. But I guess for now, since we're on green, before we adopt all of the green, why is this the high school? Why is that green? North Dallas High School.
43 were flagged because they were within 3/4 of a mile from each other. Number 50, North Dallas High School, is not within 3/4 of a mile of any location in the top 50.
Okay. Oh, it's just by proximity. It's not by
Yes.
voter turnout. Okay.
It's
So,
top
but
50
if
top 50 in turnout, and if it's within 3/4 of a mile, it's flagged to take a peek.
but the green are the ones we will more than likely accept as vote centers, correct? And then the orange and red, well, red is out, but the orange are the ones that we are kind of on the line. Is that the?
Yeah, and
that the-
fair warning, this is maybe a good introduction to the next phase. So, see number 50, if we tentatively green that for right now, when we do the number 51 through 100, there might be another location that's right across the street, for all I know. And then, so we will readdress that. We will say, oh, now 50 is orange, because now there's a location within 3/4 of a mile. So remember, everything is kind of tentative, and we're doing this in layers, so we can get some progress.
Okay, and I'll ask okay, I got it. And I'll ask about Reverchon when we get to orange. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Now I have,
Go ahead.
Elaine Campbell, see it. We're accepting the green as is. The comments that people made, we didn't turn them red, correct?
The only two that were turned red were the
Fire station and the civic.
number 4 and 36.
Because I do not agree with number 40.
Yeah.
There's no real fire, so it's not.
There's no building.
Are they gonna forget to fix the replacement if it's not listed?
There will be, but we don't know
We
what
were-
it's gonna be yet.
So we were at new location.
No.
We
I'll
were-
visit with you about where your mom can vote. in
Can I
Richardson.
say something?
Thank you.
So we are in new
We'll look it up.
location in Richardson, and we're very close to the civic center. It's less than 3-minute drive, and it's on the bus. So we're.
I will talk to both of them.
Yeah. It's on
So,
Lake Drive.
And for the purposes of those of us who had an issue with what I was saying, by scoring the sites now, we can see which of those sites that are close would be good alternative locations in the event that we have these unanticipated closures.
That's why we're gonna come back when we go to the top 100.
yeah,
That
there's
makes more sense
layer
to me
upon
now.
layer where these might be revisited. Right now, we're taking it a piece at a time. Okay, so all those in favor of accepting the greens and light greens, tentatively accepting those, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no.
And you have a hand raised on the screen.
Okay. Who got a hand raised?
That was an affirmative vote.
Okay, great. Yeah, and if we sense that there's any, closed votes, we will re-vote and maybe do a roll call. So I'm not gonna ramrod anything through, okay? But now, we want to take a look at our orange. And Liz has got, we're gonna zoom in to these individually. So what we have here is, two locations, University Park and Highland Park, within 3/4 of a mile from each other, number 8, number 21. So Melissa, what can you tell us about those two locations?
They both have mid to high turnout ongoing throughout elections across the year. University Park, UFC is also an early voting location. And we evaluated this in the last year when we made some decisions to close some of the May locations. And at that time, the decision was made to keep both of these locations open.
Can you scroll down to the bottom so they can see that there's statistics about University Park? Scroll down. Bottom. She's disconnected. While she's trying to find that, there's a question.
Do you have any recall on why it was decided to keep both locations open at the time?
Because there were just high turnout.
Just high turnout. And if you close
So
one,
you're
it
gonna
may
see
overwhelm
in
the other
this,
one.
and especially in these, even though something's within 3/4 of a mile, two high turnout locations, you're probably gonna want to keep them. Especially, when you get to a bigger election, right? And so it's when we get to the, low turnout locations, you got one high and one low, keep the high and get rid of the low. Two high turnout locations, probably a no-brainer, in my opinion. And so what we've kind of done is we're making a recommendation that these both stay open.
Thank you.
So any of the orange location have been surveyed?
They may have been
They
surveyed,
may,
but
we're-
the more
they can
important is
tell
that
you
they're
as
close.
we go through.
Yeah, I'll identify them if they have been surveyed at this point.
Right.
Michael, these pictures that they're on the computer now, when we go home tonight, there's a link that we can see that, right?
Yeah, and that's one of the questions I was gonna ask you guys. Do you want paper or do you want electronic?
Electronic.
We can send everything electronic. Yeah, we can send you these maps, we can send you the spreadsheets,
It's
and
nice
the
to have
decisions that have been made. So then you can review all those and say, man, that was a bad decision. I want to revisit that one.
It's nice to have the paper for here, looking, but,
For homework, yeah.
homework, yeah, thank you.
And some of this, I apologize, you gotta understand, we lost 4 days left. That kind of put us back a little bit.
So I moved over to my other screen. I may just have to toggle a little more while that gets set up. But there's some notes down here on the 2 May elections for University Park. The turnout was in the 600s, and it was very similar for the Highland Park ISD building as well, and it's 0.6 miles away.
What's interesting on there too, you can see the average travel distance. So even though those two locations are within 3/4 of a mile, the average voter at University Park is traveling for those elections. So, I'll entertain a motion on 21 and number 8. Our recommendation is to keep both of those.
I move we keep both. Cindy Castilla.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Right, so we keep those two. So we move to our next pair. Scroll down a little bit. We have number 9 Park Elementary School and number 30 Highland Park Middle School. Within just about 3/4 mile, if you scroll down a little bit more so we can see the staff. So 0.7 miles away from each other. University Park was used in May of 2021, but not in May of 2022. So I'm going to guess, you're going to tell us, I'm going to guess that one was a substitute for the other. But go ahead. About the location.
Actually, that is incorrect. It's not a substitute. It was just unavailable. The school district, I think during the May elections, had some difficulty scheduling around school activities for all of the locations. You'll notice these two also are in the same area close to the University Park UMC, so it's kind of right in that same vicinity. And that area in general is higher turnout. And of the 4 locations we visited, I think our overall recommendation is that we need to keep at least 3 of them to accommodate the traffic. So
at this point, I would say we would recommend keep
Yeah.
both. That's our recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
So moved. I second.
So it's been moved and seconded that we tentatively keep number 9 and number 30 as green locations. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Moving to our next pair.
So this one, I think, has been brought up before, Oak Lawn Branch Library and then Ravershaw, Recreation Center. And
It's right
Oak
on the
Lawn
line.
is an early voting location. Both of these locations have been open in every election we've had since 2019. We did survey Revershaw and it scored 147 out of 152 points on our survey, so it was a good location. The May election turnout combined for the 2 locations was just under 1,000. So you can see that there was 600 and 300, they kind of flip-flopped. And then in the larger elections, they combined can get up to 4,000 voters roughly.
Our recommendation would be to keep both those locations.
So moved. I second.
Been moved and seconded that we keep number 9 and 19 and 43 as make those green. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. So next pair. Like number 26 John Armstrong and number 30 Highland Park Middle School. Tell us about those.
Highland Park Middle School. Highland Park.
I think this is Highland Park Middle School, the previous one that we touched. Oh, it's also, it's just on the outside, so yeah. So we talked about these 2 and then this is now in the same round. So it's not in when we talked about University Park Elementary School, it was within 3/4 mile of Highland Park Middle School. Highland Park Middle School is also within 3/4 mile of John Armstrong Elementary School. So they kind of go along the distance from there. We've used them both almost all the time. Actually, I'm sorry. Location 26, so John Armstrong Elementary School, we have only used 60% of the time since 2019. We did not use it in the March or May election of this year. And the other one we've used 90% of the time since 2019, we talked about. So both have a decent turnout between 350 and 500 for the 2 of them. We scroll back down to the chart.
So for a May election, that's these really good jobs.
Yeah, and we reviewed both of these locations in the last VCAC meeting for May, and we decided to keep both of them at that time.
So what made them under Kenya's, discussion earlier? Why are they yellow?
Because they're within 3/4 of a mile.
That's the main reason.
Yeah.
It's the only reason.
But they are utilized. They're used, people use them, 350 people more.
Yeah, just because they're yellow was just to kind of zoom in. They're really close together, and now let's evaluate further to see, does that matter,
But they
right?
are being used.
They're both being used, yeah.
That's my answer.
In a large election, one of them gets around 600, the other one gets around 800 voters.
Yeah, that's-
And in the May elections, it's 350 to 500 voters.
Green, I mean, sorry.
I've heard a motion to
Need a
keep.
motion to keep?
Seconded.
Green.
Any discussion? All those in favor of keeping both those locations, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, fair.
This one was asked about, right? Brentfield Primary School and Parkville Junior High. 48 and 29. Let's scroll to the bottom of the page.
Drop 48.
Yeah, we need.
So we did not use number 48 throughout 2022. I believe it was under construction, correct?
It is under construction. That construction is, if you don't mind me adding, that construction is about to be complete. And we are planning for construction coming up at Park Hill. We have not passed the bond yet that would cause that construction, but Park Hill will sooner rather than later be unavailable. So I recommend that we close one of them and alternate between the two as necessary to accommodate construction schedules.
Oh,
Motion.
That is my motion.
Wait.
oh, discussion,
Yeah, so it's been motioned and seconded.
discussion.
Beth, go ahead, online.
Okay, that seems really hard on voters. Let's do it here one time, here another. I'd like to know where the one that has the lower number, what do they rank? So these are both in the top 50 of over 450 locations, and we're gonna cut one. That just does not make sense.
They are literally across the street from each other.
Can they hold enough like cars for them to be combined regularly? And they get more than so many others. So are you gonna close everything else that only gets 290 votes? That's considered a high number? I mean, it's ranked in the top 50 out of 450, 1/9. You know, the top 1/9 of our list. And I just think,
I can tell you, caller, please, when you start talking, if you can identify yourself, it'd be helpful. I can tell you from my perspective, if they're in the top 50, no matter how close they are, and they have high numbers, my sense is that you want to keep them. But we are hearing from a school official, and so I think that, carries some weight, and so that's what the only reason
There are construction issues that are going to have to cause us to take one or the other off the table. And then James Bowie Elementary School is just outside the 3/4 of a mile, so you can see it on the screen there. And we also haven't layered in the next layer, the next 50 to 100 or 50 to 150 on this. So at this point, and I apologize that I have to make the recommendation this way, but we are planning construction at Park Hill Junior High. So my motion is that we use one of the two as construction allows. I think the voters can handle it because you can park in one parking lot and walk to the other.
I think that you probably want to choose one as your primary
Absolutely.
location, and if it happens to be close, we would use the other as an alternate.
Correct, I agree with you on that.
but can I ask, if you've taken it off the list, will it still be available to you? I would leave them both on the list and then just not hold one there when it's not possible.
I promise you, we will work with you and we will have one of those two available.
But if it's off the list, it's less likely to be chosen as the option. If it's on the list, you just say for this election, it's not available.
State law still requires us to let school buildings be used for polling locations. I promise you, the school district at Richardson ISD is not going to get in a fight with you about it. We need people to vote. We encourage people to vote. And so, but I cannot commit to both of those simultaneously right now because of construction issues. So y'all can vote me up or down. That is the motion I made. But
I think.
we are so committed to it.
If you could make me clarify your motion, which location?
Oh,
It's not one or the other, it's one.
Okay, I would propose that Park Hill Junior High be the primary location for the elections. And then when it is unavailable due to construction, we switch to Brentfield. That makes everybody more comfortable.
I second.
It's been motion and seconded discussion.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I still don't understand how that works, only because I know that the list of approved centers goes to the Commissioner's Court.
I think the way the
So
motion.
I'm trying to
because
understand
the
logistics.
The end result would be 29 is at green, 48 is red.
Okay, so that means.
But then 29
So
is
our-
construction.
Our process would be, let me.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so we have the final list of vote centers, and so if we made one green and one red, then that green location is the location we would go and say, this is the location that you have, we want to, we need to use for the election. If the school district or any location tells us we're not available for that election, we look for a replacement location, and the first place we go to is the school, if it's a school district location, and ask for another school nearby. And so what he's saying is, if Park Hill becomes unavailable for any reason, then they would replace it with Brentfield as a replacement location, which we actually do regularly for maybe 40, 50 locations every election. It's not an abnormal process for us.
Because you just mentioned that only one was available the last election.
Yeah.
I
So
want to make sure that.
we did not, so we made a decision in last May to remove Brentfield from the list, so we did not use it for the May elections because of what the decision we made when we went to Commissioner's Court for UCC last time. So it was removed from the list and was not used for the May elections. And then it went under construction and was not available for use for the November election. So the last time we actually used Brentfield Elementary Primary School, was November 2021. And there were 158 voters that turned out at that election.
Lady Millie's got her hand up. Online.
Sorry, that was a mistake on my part. I do not have a question.
I would call the question. I'm going to approve what he recommends. It's his city.
Okay, so question's been called. All those in favor of making 29 red or green and number 48 red, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
So the motion's passed. Next group.
So we're on the top 50 now.
So that concludes the top 50. Yay. Scott, so
There is one, it's in Geneva Heights Elementary School. It is currently under construction and won't be available for a year.
Geneva Heights.
what number is that?
32.
32. So let's revisit that next week, or do you, we heard from the school district on that, I mean.
They moved to a temporary campus. I believe we were reviewing with them, but I don't know that, I think we want to revisit it, yeah.
Because I don't know what the.
Good information.
It's a big black hole right now.
Okay. So we'll make note of that. So that concludes the first 50. Now it's a little bit harder. So now we want to look at the next 50. And so some of these, when we lay this next 50 down, we may be revisiting something we've already talked about. And so what you might see is on the map, 2 oranges, but we made a decision, one's red and one's green. So you can't change those interactions. Pardon me?
You would have another handout for the
Next 50?
Yeah.
Before the next I ask the discussion?
We're in the first, the next.
Before we get to that, what was, I couldn't hear what was said, it sounds like in the room about Geneva Heights, because that was actually what my question was, since I know that there are a couple of voting locations that used to be that stopped being used locations. So I didn't hear what was said about that, whether we have.
So you're breaking up really fast. You might get closer to your microphone because we couldn't understand you.
Sure. Is this better now?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't hear what was said in the room about Geneva Heights, because that was actually what my question was about, because the school that's being used right now for Geneva Heights is not close to Geneva Heights. And I know that some of the voting locations that used to be open were near Geneva Heights, but now I'm just curious what is replacing that for May?
I think we said we have to bring that one back to review. We know that they opened a temporary location, but we haven't evaluated it yet, and so that.
Temporary, because just so that you know, the temporary location is not close, because that's where I go vote, is usually Geneva. And the temporary location is not close to where Geneva Heights is on Delmar. So just as an FYI.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that's good feedback.
Yep. Go ahead and tell everyone where you're speaking, and I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. Of the 519, and I know some of these are gonna come up later as we get through the sequences. But if I look at the big picture, there are 2 other vote locations within a quarter of a mile, and then 3 more that are right outside that 3/4 of a mile, which I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump ahead.
No, that addresses, that kind of talks about, we don't need to get too worked up about some of this, because as we add more layers, there might be an obvious answer, right?
So, we have St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church, so now there, still, this is not reference by those numbers, this is actually geographic. Okay. No.
They're below the 50.
All right, so let's go ahead and show our next 50. They're gonna, I don't know why we don't have the next 50 printed out, but they're gonna print out the next 100. And we'll get you that list so you can reference it. I'm just gonna display the next 50. But just so you guys know, so Melissa's tracking our spreadsheet, she's tracking our maps. Petra is taking notes to make sure that she's recording the votes, our decisions. And Kevin's here with GIS, where we need to dig deeper with all those statistics. So as you can see, this is the top 100. So this is 50 plus 50. And so there's more yellows, right? There's more close to each other. There's the red number 16 that we've already voted on. Yes. And then it looks like we got a couple other reds. Number 90, and she's going to tell us, Patrick, you can look that up. I'll just scroll down. We're 59 and 90.
So number 90 is Midway Hills Christian Church, and they have told us that they're no longer available for us to use. And so that was a decision from the location, not a decision made by us. We reformed that last November election. We did not use them. And number 59 is Mockingbird Community Church, and that location is also no longer available to use. I believe that the people that were at the church are no longer at that location. So both were location driven. They're not available for us to use any longer.
That's the only two additional reds.
I believe so. You can back out the, I think
Is-
the.
Michael, is that comment about the two locations are no longer available? Were they surveyed to determine that?
No, for those particular two, it was the location themselves that told us they were not available. We didn't DQ them, they DQ'd themselves.
So they notified the elections department that we can no longer have elections there, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and what were those two locations again?
On your list, there will be when you get the list, number 59 and 90, which is Mockingbird Community Church and Midway Hills Christian Church.
Okay, thank you.
So I would entertain a motion to,
Sorry,
go ahead.
I have one more question. When a facility calls and says we are no longer, we don't want to be a voting center anymore, does your team assess to see, is there one close by and if not?
Yeah,
Is that something you
that's
do?
kind of what we're doing now, right?
But we're not adding any, we're just taking.
We would be paying.
Okay.
Because remember, we talked about as we get more and more layers, and if we look for holes, we say, boy, there's a travel distance. We need to shop for something else. And we do that every election, because there's always someone who isn't available temporarily. These are permanent deletions.
Maybe there's a creek.
So I would entertain a motion to reject those two locations, number 59 and number 90.
So moved.
Second.
The motion is seconded. All those in favor, or is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? Great. So now we want to move to the greens. And you can see there's, it looks like about half less than half surveyed, and others not surveyed. I don't know if there's any questions about any of those. You don't have a list in front of you, unfortunately. But you will have a list tomorrow or the next day that provides whatever this tentative decisions have been made so you can review in detail. So I would entertain a motion, just like with the greens before, to accept all of the dark green and.
Wait. You want us to act on something that we don't know what it is?
It's tentative like we did earlier, right?
Yeah.
Because we can always switch, we can always remove, we can adjust in the future meeting.
We get the list.
After you get the list, you can read all the details about it. And so the question becomes, it's a pretty high turnout location. I mean, it's still in the top 100. It's still what I would call into that low hanging fruit. The easy yes.
Yeah, the light greens and the dark greens at this point. Because the darks only represent ones that have been surveyed. The lights are not surveyed, but they're all high turnout. I said that right, Mike.
Yes.
I move that we accept, so we can have the discussion, I move that we accept all of the greens currently shown on the screen in the top 100.
I said.
Second.
The motion and seconded that we accept all the dark and light greens. Is there any discussion?
Yes, discussion, please.
Okay.
Hi, this is Mona Lisa, City of Grand Prairie. Yeah, it's too difficult for me to vote on something that I don't know what I'm voting on, so I would like to see the list before I submit my vote on this.
This is Cynthia with the City of Hutchins. I agree with Mona Lisa.
Michael?
Yes.
Lawrence Weiner, and I've been election judge at Zion Lutheran Church and School for about 30 years. They should be taken off the list. They should go red if they're still showing up due to parent opposition to holding elections during school days. That would take out Tuesdays. We don't need them for the smaller elections. I don't have the list to know whether they're on the screen or not, so.
Number six.
They're not green.
I agree as well. Lavetta Levels, SEAC, we don't have the list. it's difficult for us to follow along. I see the numbers and the dots. I don't have the names of the locations. I do agree, we don't have the information to make any further decisions.
Agreed.
Share that. You send that out to all the members.
Yeah, it's just, keep up with all the,
Emails on its way.
I still don't have a PowerPoint.
Check your email.
I did check my email. Thank you. It's not in the email. We're all requesting the PowerPoint.
So the email's on its way with a list of the next 50.
All of these sites are, they are right now active voting sites, the dark green and light green, right? Our voting sites right now.
Yes.
Yes. The dark greens are the ones that have been surveyed in the most recent survey.
Yes.
Every one of them has been utilized, we know that they work.
Correct.
Okay.
And so at this point, everything in green,
We know they work.
boy, everything on this screen is heavy turnout voting. Because it's in the top 100.
It still has some issues that are undiscovered by the survey,
Right.
but it is valid work.
Greens, all of them, we know they work.
Dark green.
And no, both.
Oh,
Light
yeah.
greens and dark greens.
Right.
We both know that they do work, they have been working, they continue to work.
Yes, sir.
And to Mr. Wayner's point, he said 66 Zion Lutheran, that is, it's orange, so that's gonna be discussed. It's not part of the discussion, not relevant. Motion's been made, we're under discussion about accepting green. Is there more discussion? We're waiting on that list. So the people here have the list, the folks online. Have you got it yet?
No.
This is Alicia from DeSoto. I'm trying to see where maybe I don't see it. Maybe scroll up a little. I'm looking for number 70. That's Cockrell Hill Elementary School.
You got a list?
There it is.
Yes. I received a list about, excuse me, 3 minutes ago. Okay, so it's the light green there? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Did everybody get their list? Because I sent group 2. This is
I
Esmeralda,
received it.
by the way. You got it? Okay.
With cutting edge technology.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand everyone's got their list. We'll give you another minute to peruse.
And creating jobs.
Okay.
WeatherTech, made
Send it to
right
them.
in America.
Hi, I'm Darlene Higgins, Sport Go and just take mine. Go has really taught me how to be better and feel better. As long as you eat the right food.
You care.
You may want to zoom out a little more so everyone, as they're getting their list, they can see the rest of the numbers now.
You guys are prepared? 101 to 150?
Yes, we get the list.
Okay, so some folks have had online, have had a chance to kind of take a look at those locations. Is there further discussion now that we have that list? Are we ready to take a vote on the motion? Okay. Any objections online? You guys need more time? Haven't heard nothing. Take a vote. All those in favor of accepting the greens, light greens and dark greens, tentative approval for those for tonight, signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Great. So now we move to our next pairs. When we do these pairs, we're working our way up in numbers. So if there was a number 51, that would be the one we do first, and then number 60, then number 55.
So this one, actually, we're revisiting number 2, because number 2, now that we've expanded to 100, has paired with location 80. So in the first 50, there wasn't a location that was within the 3/4 mile, and now we are expanding to the 100 locations, and location number 80, which is Spring Creek Elementary School, is within that parameter on it.
And what can you tell us? Go ahead and scroll down so we see the stats, and what can you tell us about those 2 locations?
So Press Park Library is an early voting location. We surveyed it, and it scored 148 out of 152 points. They both were used in all but one election, but different elections. Location number 80, which is Spring Creek Elementary School, has significantly lower turnout than Press Park. You see here, Press Park is at 1196 and 830, and their turnout at Spring Creek Elementary School was less than 300 voters for the May elections in the similar elections.
What is the vote center number of Spring Creek Elementary?
80.
No, the vote, the turn number.
2051.
2051. Yeah, the list that we got, the second list that we got doesn't have vote center numbers.
Yeah, none needed for.
Yeah, first one does, second one doesn't.
Are we able to see what the next closest location, like everybody who wouldn't be able to vote at this one if it closes, what else is close to them? Do they all have to add to Fretz, which is already crowded with a lot of voters, more than, I mean, that was more than some of the numbers. Yeah, because it's really high. I mean, it was on the first list. So where else can they go? Are there other places really close to them? This map doesn't show me what's outside the circle.
I had a question.
Well, she asked a question, so
It ties into her question exactly. The turnout numbers you have there, are those combined early voting and election day numbers, or are they election day only?
Election day only.
Thank you, appreciate that.
I mean, my sense on these 2 is if you're in the top 100, you got 2 locations, even though they're close, they're highly used. And
Agree.
Imagine in a presidential.
We kept both of those locations.
Yeah.
open.
So my
That's why I was asking. I agree.
Actually, wasn't Richardson Civic Center open last May?
No, yes.
No, last May.
May it was open.
So this actually may go up.
This is Fred's.
Well, no, but last May.
Yeah, last May it was open.
Yes.
Yes.
And I want to respond to the question that was asked as well about the next closest location is Northwood Hills Elementary School, which is 0.7 miles away from Spring Creek Elementary School. So you have that answer.
And just as an interesting point, because I found this pretty fascinating. So we talk about these locations, these 2 are 0.6 apart. The average, look at the average travel distance. 1.7 miles average. So, at this point in time anyway, these are not necessarily walking. Right.
I would move that we keep both locations at this point pending the results of the site survey. I know there are some issues at Spring Creek Elementary. I just don't know if they are issues that would impact its use as a voting location. I know the sidewalk has some issues and all there.
That's good to hear, because even though we're doing surveys, that feedback from this group is helpful, because that's a little bit of a red flag for us to, make sure we're taking a harder look.
But I would not, pending your site survey, I would not recommend that we take this off the list just yet.
Well, keep in mind that no matter if it's light green, we're still gonna survey it, we're still gonna come back to you to tell you if something didn't go right with that survey.
Correct, that's what I mean, that's what I was expecting you to say.
And that's by default. So did I hear a motion to accept both those three?
Yes.
Second?
Second.
It's been motion and second that we keep number 2 and number 80. All those, any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, next pair.
Well, this one's easy. Richardson Civic Center is not available.
So you can just make that a big fat red.
So we turned that one red. It's paired with Northridge Elementary School.
And what can you tell us about Northridge?
Northridge?
Is that an early voting center?
No.
No.
It's close to it, it's pretty close to the Civic Center.
But the Civic Center's closed.
No, the Northridge, no one in.
The Northridge Elementary School has been used in 90% of our elections in the last, since 2019. It was only not used in a July 20, I believe, special or runoff election. In the May elections, it averages between 100 and 200 votes. And in the last November election, there were 461 people who voted at that school. We have not surveyed it yet. And we only have estimated maximum capacity based on the turnout from the last election, so of the largest election, so 461.
In the districts we can?
0.6.
Really, we don't have a discussion on this because one's closed, right?
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Second.
I move that we approve both Northridge and Richardson Heights Elementary School and Richardson Civic
Richardson Heights
Center.
already approved.
Okay, so all we have to do is delete Richardson Civic Center and approve Northridge. That's my motion.
Second.
Thank you.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, fair. So we have Rowlett, number 11, and Coyle Middle School. Pretty close. Can you scroll down?
And so
Distance?
this one is actually a unique situation as well, that Rowlett City Hall Annex is, they do not want to allow us to use them for election day. They only want to be used as an early voting location. Currently, their early voting location on election day, and the last couple of elections, they have not allowed us to use their location for an election day location. So that's still a discussion. Is that a permanent? We refuse to allow you. Yes.
Go ahead, finish it.
And I just want to make a comment. I just, so you guys know, our policy, so we don't confuse voters, is that if you're early voting, you should be election day.
Yeah.
So this one kind of violates the policy.
Public facility, can they say no?
Did they have like a city council meeting on Tuesday?
I mean, I'm asking the question, isn't that in the statute?
Yes.
Technically,
Yes.
they can't.
How can I
Yes.
All right, the one at City Hall, that is a very, very old place. The parking is incredibly terrible. Actually, people who park there park at Coyle, go across the street because they're diagonal from each other. The sidewalk at City Hall Annex is, we actually had a person fall and hurt themselves very badly. It's a very old, the room is very tiny. It's a break room. There's only one way in and one way out. So you've got your people circling around, coming in, voting, coming out the same door, and then going outside. It is a safety hazard. And I did let them know that last time when I was at the poll. Hoyle is a great school. It's got tons of parking. That's why they park over there. But they don't let them vote in the gym. They have to go in the library. And it's very self-contained. It's okay. And then when you get to your other schools, I can tell you. But that's my suggestion is if we could use Hoyle for a location, fine. If not, that's fine because there's several other schools there and a rec center.
And I think that at some point, this group we may talk about early voting locations. But you know, I think that one of the discussions we're gonna have with Rowlett is we really want to have the same location for both early voting.
What about
Is-
the, don't they have a rec center that we used before?
It's just off of the map here is a community center, and they've also told us no for that location. They had replaced it with the city hall for the last few elections.
So the 27 is out?
So is Coyle Middle School, is Coyle Middle School not an early vote location because they're not allowing us to be one, or we haven't asked?
I don't think we've passed yet because Rowlett City Hall has wanted that to be.
So could we ask them to be early vote in election day at Coyle?
We can, but keep in mind, schools typically don't want us there for that long a period of time.
That's true. And I want
And
to
we
add,
can't force
The community center?
the community center is
And that's
very,
in the
very,
bowels of the school, having to go into the library. I've voted there before myself, so it is, in today's campus safety environment, you do have people going too far into the school. I think the city of Rowlett, honestly, should give us either the community center or City Hall as an early voting location. Community center is a very good location, a lot of parking. It's newer than the City Hall Annex. I know they don't want it, but.
Dr. Levels, you had a comment?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Michael. My question is, again, is a procedural. What happens if the city comes back, as I think the previous gentleman was indicating, and they say we would prefer Rowlett City Hall over the community center? Or if a school district comes back and says, no, we don't want, we would prefer this school, something that we voted on tonight. Would we allow them to have that final say? Because I know they're paying for the services.
I don't know. You know, this is a tough one. And so what we could do, we can just keep them both orange, we move on, and we can maybe have some discussions with the city, say, hey, listen, we've got this committee, they're trying to make some decisions. You know, here's the issues. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and Michael, my question was not centered around this specific issue. It's around any of them. I mean, there are several locations that have not been surveyed, and we're making decisions based upon location and the proximity to other locations. And so if we haven't received the feedback from all of those places, and we receive feedback at a later date, and we know that they have those contracts already, what is the county's position on that? I don't believe, since we already have those contracts in place, that we can turn them down.
And we don't have contracts in place with those locations.
Oh, they haven't signed the contracts yet?
No.
Okay, well, that's good. But even without the contract, the expectation and the relationship for all those years, if they are the ones who decide those locations in their jurisdiction. So if someone comes back and says, no, I prefer this location, I think we need to be prepared to respond is all.
I don't disagree. I think we need to be very flexible with these cities. We want to be respectful of their, their political entities. So we've got to respect their wishes.
Right, to be clear, these places have been surveyed, just haven't been surveyed this time around, is that right?
There was an ADA survey
Right, okay.
back in 2018, 19.
But
They
they've been
didn't
surveyed by us.
consider all the other factors that it's much broader survey now about usability rather than just ADA access.
So they have, these young ones have not been surveyed by election at all.
Not yet.
Not yet, okay.
So do we have any thoughts on 11 and 62? Or do we want to kind of park those for right now? Even
If the city of Rowlett wishes not to make either City Hall or the community center available for both early vote and regular election, meaning if they agree to have the early vote, it has to then allow election day as well. What is the practical outcome for the purpose of this list? Is it that they are removed from this list, that they go down in ranking? How does that play so that, because if they don't want to play ball, why are we keeping them in the loop when this is a choice they're making? That's my question.
And I think, Hubert, you're asking that question to the group. Because this is the body, right? And so I will just say one thing to keep in mind. Just because we have these locations on the screen, that doesn't necessarily mean they're the only location, that's the only game in town. Because part of what we want to be doing is say, being creative. What other locations, start shopping for other locations. So just keep that in mind. And so we're not making final decisions right now, they're tentative.
So if we have a potential good location that we know of, what steps do we need to do?
And so as we continue down this path and we feel good about our locations, or we feel not so good about a certain location, that's when we start shopping. We've got layers of GIS where we see, commercial buildings, we see, movie theaters, we see this, government buildings, and we look for other alternatives.
I have a question. I have a Rowlett in reference to Hebron, that there is, where we were talking about the junior high, or I guess it's the intermediate school across the street. There are like 3 other junior highs in that area. It's not a need. We don't need to worry about which one we want. And I think they will agree that it could be with anyone. I think they just wanted us there at City Hall because it's close. But we don't really need to be there. And you who are doing the surveys, you're going to see that that's too congested. Since the 2018 survey that you all, there have been like quadruple amounts of apartments. It's just changed fully since then. So don't worry about all that because we have plenty of other schools and elementary schools in that area that would be more than happy to accommodate them.
But they couldn't for the purpose of early vote.
Yes.
Election day, they
Yes.
could.
No, that was just a one-off suggestion they said, so they didn't have to contact all the schools. Just to keep it all in one place. Remember, this was a very small town farming community and everybody always went to City Hall. And that's the only reason that it's like that. And people, as you know, get habits and they don't like to break them. But we do have other areas available and they're very new places, not built in the 20s and 30s. So don't worry about that.
We're just talking about election day again, right? On
Yes.
this. So I move that we take the Rowlett City Hall Annex off the table since they don't want to play with us on election day. I know it violates our rules. We leave them currently as early voting and move that the Dallas County election staff analyze where we need an early voting location in that area. I know there are churches along the north side of Main Street between the City Hall Annex and President George Bush. There's 2, possibly 3 churches along there.
So I'm just gonna rule that motion out of order.
Okay.
Because keep it, if you limit it to election day, the early voting question, we will address it.
Okay. So then I just move that we remove Rowlett City Hall Annex.
I second that. They don't want us there. I second that.
Been motion and second, what, was there a action on Coyle Middle School?
Oh, I'm fine with leaving it.
So you want to go 11 red, 62 green.
Yes.
So it's been motioned and seconded, I believe.
Yes, it is.
Any discussion? All those, oh, wait, Lawrence Weiner, go ahead. Might be muted. Did you have some discussion, Mr. Weiner? Apparently not. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Next pair. It passes, sorry. So number 22 Mohawk Elementary, number 58. But so 22 was the first 50. It was, what did we do with 22 before?
We accepted it.
We said, so it was previously marked green, but now we got to reconsider. It's within 3/4 mile of number 58 Arapahoe Classical Magnet School. What can you tell us about those 2 locations?
Let me first scroll down. So Mohawk Elementary School was used in May 2021, it was unavailable in May 2022. The
Due to construction,
right? And the Arapahoe Elementary School turnout for those May elections was between 200 and 250. The highest turnout for each of those locations in a larger election was 700 for Mohawk Elementary and 509 for Arapahoe, and we have not surveyed either of these locations yet.
I move that we keep them both in the survey.
Have a second.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded that we keep 22 and 50 as green. Is there any, pardon, 58. What did I say?
I said 50.
Although, any discussion?
And your motion is pending the survey, correct?
That's true of every single one. We don't need, it doesn't need to be said. All those in favor? What question?
Is the school still under construction?
Mohawk is wrapping up its construction, so it will. I don't remember if it will be available this May or not. They're out surveying now. I know that the Dallas County Elections team has been in the district this week, and I just cannot remember when that construction wraps up. But at this point in the process, pending the survey, again, I'm okay with that.
Any more discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, next pair.
So we've actually already discussed these 3 locations. Rowlett Community Center was not actually in the circle before, so I don't know that we made any motion on it.
Just that
It
Scroll
was-
down so you see the.
Yeah.
So they took themselves out of this, the city did.
Yeah, so Rowlett Community Center, the last time that we used that location, they actually moved and said, put everything over at the city hall. And we have not used the community center since March of 22. So in the last 3 elections, it has not been used. And prior to that, it was only used 50% in the last set of elections since 2019.
So that would, remember we talked about criteria? And one of the criteria was dependability. So that would be, this would be one that feels a little, not that dependable.
Based on Ms. Bobbitt's remarks, she obviously has great knowledge about this area. They say they don't want us there. I don't hope that we take them up with the top table.
But they said that they didn't want us there and to go to City Hall.
They don't want us there.
They don't want
Ms.
us-
Bobbitt said there's
Did
other
they say that
places
they don't
around
want
there
Yes.
that will take us. We just have to find those places, but there are other places.
They don't want us there, just, it's not because of construction.
Right, we shifted from the community center to using the city hall. And then they said they also don't want us at city hall on election day because of the school across the street. So they've actually said they don't want us in both locations at this point.
But just the other side, there's another school that's perfectly available. For early and.
So they don't want us at Coyle and the community?
Coyle is in, they don't want us at the city hall annex or the community center and to use Coyle.
Right here. Motion of some kind.
I thought you made them.
We took Rowlett Community Center out, I'll put them on red.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded that we turn number 27 Rowlett Community Center red. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
And I'm just going to make a comment on the no. I'm assuming your no is you really want a polling place.
Of course.
And so,
Absolutely.
so keep that in mind, because at some point in time, we will look at, here's what we kind of approved. Are we looking for holes? Here's an area where, maybe we think we should find something else. So noted, your objection is noted. Next pair. Three this time.
Right, so this is actually 3 locations, number 31, Kessler Park United Methodist Church, number 69, Kids Springs Recreation Center, and number 71, Rosemont Elementary School. I'm gonna scroll down a little bit more. My notes. So number 71, Rosemont Elementary School is actually currently under construction. We have not used that location since March of 2022. We've replaced it with one that is in the data elsewhere. It's a little bit outside of the circle though. And Kids Springs, so we've got the turnout here for May for Kessler Park, the turnout for Kids Springs Recreation Center for comparison was 293 in 2021 and 100 in 2022. For those May elections, we have not yet surveyed these locations. Sorry, say that one more time.
United Methodist Church.
Kessler Park United Methodist Church, so I've got the turnout there from the last 2 May elections. Let me pull up some more data.
While she's doing that, Billy had a comment.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Can I make a recommendation that we at least wait on the Kessler United Methodist Church and Kids Springs before a decision is made until a survey has been done? I'm not comfortable with eliminating either one of those. What was the turnout on Rosemont Elementary School? I guess I missed it.
I agree with her as well.
Do we know if Rosemont is going to be available this May, where they are in the construction process?
We know that we looked at DISD's information is listed as currently under construction still at this time. So we don't know their availability yet in terms of how soon, but I believe it's currently.
So this is Upper Rosemont
Yes.
Elementary? Okay.
Correct. So I know there was a question about turnout, and so let me just kind of walk through. So in the November election, Kessler View Park United Methodist had 1,044 voters, and Kidd Springs had 480, and again, Rosemont wasn't used. In May elections, they were 221 and 100, and Rosemont wasn't used. Back in May 2021, all three were used, and in sequence, so Kessler was 494 voters, and 270 voters for Kidd Springs, and 193 voters for Rosemont Elementary.
So I'll just make a comment. Those are pretty high turnout locations.
Yeah. And those are walkable neighborhoods as well. I'd like to move that we keep all three of those.
I agree.
The site surveys.
Yeah, second.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded that we keep all three. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, next group.
Okay, so we have number 42, Moss Haven Elementary School, and number 54, Forest Meadows Junior High School. Scroll down to look at that.
Half a mile apart.
Yep, so location number 54, which is the Forest Meadows, is actually currently listed as under construction until July of 23. So it would not be available for the May election, would be potentially available moving forward after that, depending on when they finish construction. Last May, we looked at both of these locations. We voted to keep them both. Each of them has been used in 90% of our elections. And then as their turnout, I believe we've got turnout about 300 there. I believe it's similar for the other location as well.
Once again, pretty high turnout. Even for a mail.
Move we keep them, please.
Agree. City of Dallas.
All three of them, yeah.
There's only two on this that we're discussing right now. So it's been motioned and seconded that we keep 42 and 54. Any discussion? All those in favor? Oh, sorry.
Just real quickly, and it's more of, this may not be the right time to ask this, so it's okay to tell me that. I think part of our question and concern about looking at all the vote centers is the cost to the entities holding elections.
Right.
And so because this is tentative, and I said, Forest Meadows within 3/4 of a mile of Moss Haven, it's also clearly going to be within 3/4 of a mile of Skyview. We do kind of have an oversaturation right there. I'm assuming when we come back to the broader picture after we've done these pieces, we may go, yeah, in order to control cost, we may want to look at closing one of these or something. And I know these are high participation. We may get the cost down by closing low participation ones.
So I'm going to guess that your reaction might be, if you got 600 and 400, that's probably an easier decision than 102.
Yeah.
Right. And so as we get to, to the lower turnout, then those decisions might be in some ways a little easier, and in some ways a little harder because you got to consider other factors.
Right.
Right.
So that helped me. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So we're in this, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of keeping both 42 and 54, signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, next group, motion passes. It's now 9:01, but if you look over there, Melissa, we've got a couple. Pairs. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more pairs. You guys want to keep going?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so this is number 44 and number 64, which is Lakewood Elementary School and the Father's Church. I'm going to scroll down so you can see the statistics on this while I also pull them up on my data set over here. So we reviewed these last May, and when at that point in time, we had made the decision to remove number 44, which was the elementary school, which is why there's no turnout for May 2022 on that location, because we did not use it. And that may be why we decided to remove it, but I know we didn't use it for those elections based off of that last VCAC. For the Father's Church, the turnout in the May election was 99 voters. We did survey the Father's Church and it scored 151 out of 152 points, so it was well surveyed. And the maximum number of voters between the two elections, one was around 550, one was around 600 in the larger election for their turnout.
Move to keep both.
Second.
Moved and seconded to keep both 44 and 64. Any discussion?
That was temporary. We had only done that for a subset of elections during that year.
Any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Next.
Okay, so this is number 47, Churchill Recreation Center, and number 68, Unity Church of Dallas. Faster than I'm capable. So, Churchill Recreation Center was a location that was actually used as a replacement location vote center. So it was not one of our standard vote centers, but we used it in a replacement election. Looks like it was May 2021, so that's where the data is, so I'm gonna go with that. It was used one time in May 2021. It's not one of our standard locations. And then Unity Church of Dallas. See that. The Unity Church of Dallas is the highest turnout that that location has had is 607 voters since 2019. It averages in May 199 voters, and we've used that location 100% of the time. So it's been available for all of the elections. So again, when we talk about our standard locations, we have the ones that we've used all of election, and this was a one-off location we used as a replacement, but it did have high turnout. So that's how it ended up on this list when we used it for that May election.
You've only used Churchill as a replacement one time?
Yes, in May 2021, it was used as a replacement location.
It is.
So what was it replacing to? Which location was it?
That's a very good question. I don't have that on here.
So can we say we want to keep both? Is that?
That's my, I'm gonna make a motion that we keep both.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
It's been motioned and seconded that we keep both. Any discussion? My computer's not set, is there?
Can you give us an idea of what Unity Church did May 2022 and then what it did in May 2021, just to see what the dip was with Churchill being active?
Sure. So in May 2021, there were 245 voters at Unity Church. And in May 2022, there was 153 voters. So when they were both open, and that turnout, I believe May 21 was a little higher turnout than May 22 anyway. So it was 9% versus 6%. Right? Yeah. So in May 21, 245, May 22, 153 at Unity Church.
Yes, there's a motion.
Call for the question.
Question's been called. All those in favor of keeping both, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Some people are getting tired. Motion passes. Next. Couple more.
Okay, so this is number 51, George B. Dealey Vanguard, and number 81, Arthur Kramer Elementary School. I'm gonna scroll down to this is the data. 0.7 miles away from each other. George B. Dealey had 313 voters in May of 2021, 169 voters in May of 2022. Number 51, which is George B. Dealey, was used 100% of the elections since 2019, and the second location was used in 90% of the elections, so I believe it was closed for one election. And then they average approximately 400 to 500 voters between the two combined.
Kevin Hale moved to keep both.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to keep both locations. Any discussion? One online? Okay. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Next. So we have three here. One, our previously discussed Moss Haven Elementary. What did we do with that?
We kept Moss Haven and Forest Meadow.
Yes. And the reason why we kept Skyview Elementary is because of the walkability of the neighborhood and not having to cross a major street.
Yeah.
You're talking about last year?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, last April. And so really, I guess that what's in discussion is Skyview Elementary in this particular case. And so the closest Skyview is how far? Can you scroll down a little bit?
Yeah. The Skyview is 0.4 miles from Forest Meadows.
And can you tell us about the numbers of Skyview?
Yep, so Skyview Elementary School, in the May 2022 election, there were 175 voters. May 2021 was 161. It's been open in 90% of the elections since 2019, only missing a July election. And in November, there was 462 voters that voted there.
Still pretty decent turnout.
Yeah. I mean, we keep all those. Second.
Been motion and second that we keep all three, 54, 42, and 88. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion passes. Next.
Two more.
Woohoo.
So I believe this one, someone.
Oh, this is an easy one.
So we have Hillman Southwest Library, number 57, and Zion Lutheran Church, number 66.
Distance part.
Yeah, yeah, they said because they don't want it there.
He didn't take a
We did
vote,
not
but we
take a
got.
vote. Somebody made a comment.
Lawrence Weiner.
Right.
So we not-
Michael, this is Lawrence Weiner. I've been the election judge at Zion for over 30 years, and there's some missing information on this chart because Dandy Rogers is a DISD elementary school at Abrams and Lovers. That should go green, and Zion should go red. So, Dandy Rogers was closed for renovation, so that didn't get in the queue for election data.
This is also, this is Millie Domenech, and I sometimes live in that neighborhood. I can tell you that Zion Lutheran Church is walking distance from Skillman Southwest anyway, because I have actually walked.
Oh, Zion Lutheran Church is also 2 blocks from Dandy Rogers. There is parent opposition to using Zion on Tuesdays. We don't need Zion for small elections.
And with that, we move to strike Zion.
That's correct. Zion needs to go red, and Dandy Rogers Elementary School needs to go green.
We're not there yet. Keep
We're
that.
not-
I move that we keep Stillman Southwest. And Zion. off.
Skillman is very popular. It's a popular voting.
Is there a second?
Second.
I will add for Skillman Southwestern Branch Library, the parking is poor there, but it's still a good location for the village apartments.
Been moved and seconded that we turn 57 green and 66 red. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. One more.
And Michael can,
Yes.
we need to consider Dandy Rogers of adding that as a green location, whatever the number is for that.
Okay, we'll take note of that though, for next, whatever group that falls in, we're not sure. Last pair.
So we have number 61 Spring Park Sports Club and number 67 Big Springs Elementary School. They are 0.5 miles apart, and this is referring to Spring Park Sports Club. They had 198 voters in 2021, and they had 216 voters in the May 2022 election. And so both of them, location number 61, which is Spring Park, was used 80% of the time in the last election since 2019. And Big Springs Elementary School was used 90% of the time, so missing 1 election versus 2 elections in the last 10
I
elections.
move we keep both of those open. Turn them green.
Moved and seconded that 61 and 67 remain green. Turn green. Is there any discussion?
Just that, I would just add that the Big Springs Elementary being on Campbell Road, it's a fairly high traffic and easy access location. So I think that's valid location to definitely keep.
And just as a point of discussion, you know, and I'm not familiar with this area, but I'm just looking at, is that a creek between them?
Yeah.
So that would be a factor to me, right? That there's
There's like
separation.
one entrance into Spring Park area. Yeah. It's, yeah, that was. Yeah.
It's just convenient for people traveling, going across there like the telecom corridor area to stop there and vote.
Right. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. That completes all of the oranges for group 51 through 100. I want to, so congratulations, because, you know, going into this, I wasn't sure how fast it was going to go. I mean, this was, you know, we're making this up as we go, right? And I mean, it is. And so, you know, what we learned a little bit is about how this kind of works. And I think the formula, to me, kind of works, because I didn't know if I should put 100 on the screen, 150, 200 on the screen. We thought we'd take it in layers. You know, if I would have put 150 up, we might not have got through, right? And so the question then becomes, what do you guys want to do for, and I'm going to pull back, I got a targeting point here, I got to find it. So I want feedback on tonight's process. I think I'm going to give my own feedback, right? And I'm going to guess that you guys are going to agree. You want to have the information in front of you, all the information.
Yes.
Right? Ahead of time.
100%.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to take the results of tonight, give you those results so that you can review, We're also going to give you the next 100, whatever we can supply, reasonable amount of supply, so you can prepare.
You'll email that.
Yes.
I have one request. Please have the vote center numbers on you.
Okay, yeah.
That's how I mean, that's
Yep.
how you know. Yeah, that's how
I
I
had that
know.
discussion earlier today. And we can very easily put it in the table. Some of the PDF generation is difficult.
I don't care about, this, the table.
Yeah.
Having the vote center numbers.
And so maybe the question is, do you want to proceed in the same manner with this, green, tentative green, orange,
I'm curious.
red, in groups of 50, or do you want to modify that somehow?
Period. I also want to let you know that we're just finishing up my vote center meeting and they are doing all of the research and just showing us slides. Period. I'm so disappointed.
You're not muted. Someone's on a call, you're not muted.
So if you have it, line, or whatever color you want to call it, that means y'all don't have the data yet, correct?
Correct.
So how are y'all going about getting a hold of those people? And when are you going to, what constitutes we just can't work with them, nobody's responding to us? What's timeline?
I don't know if Melissa or Kyle want to speak to that question.
So, we're just having, I mean, sometimes it's slow to get in touch with them, but, tomorrow we've got 20 already set up for surveys. It's just, you just have to go down the road each day, get new locations.
Y'all want our help is what I'm asking.
Oh, yeah, please.
I think our mayors call the superintendent
Yeah.
and poof, and all of a sudden happens.
Yeah.
I think that's a generous offer, and it's one that we'll take you up on, and we will probably tap into other city secretaries also if we have trouble, getting through, because we got to get these done,
Because
right?
that's really easy for, our mayor has a great relationship with the superintendent, so.
Yep.
That would.
Good.
Any other suggestions, or what, I didn't get feedback on the modification of the process. Go
I
ahead.
like it.
I think he had his hand up.
I would submit that it would be easier, if we're going to introduce a process down the line, it would be easier to introduce the process early so that we get past the learning curve when it's time to make the harder decision. So to score the sites and have that score data available, which would go back historically before the vote center concept was introduced, because you do have areas of town where they built new apartment buildings or condos. And so those bodies literally weren't there 7 years ago, but they're there now. And we can see by a scoring that this is a plus vote center as opposed to an even or a negative vote center. That information would still be vital if we had it consistently through this process. And we could see, based on what we know from where we are, oh yeah, this matches up with what I know, with what I understand versus, oh wow, this is not what I was expecting over here. If we had that available today or next meeting, that would help, one, reduce the learning curve shock value, and we would be more so ready to make those decisions as we get to vote center 425, 429, 450, as opposed, that are gonna be much more difficult, and we have to bring other factors into play.
I agree.
Meaning that different surveying them?
I'm suggesting that we have a site utilization score for each vote center. And that site utilization score says, hey, we've got a voting age population of this number around this vote center. That does not mean that that's how many people vote there. There could be more, there could be less. But if we see consistently that, vote center X is super underperforming, while we may have an inclination to take that off, then we have other factors we may take into account, like distance to the nearest vote center for that population. Is this a population that is very reliant on public transportation? We may have some other factors we need to take into account, But if we can see that this vote center is negative versus this one positive, when we're looking at vote centers that are separated by a hill or a side of the street, that may make it easier for us to say, oh, we can go ahead and get rid of this because this group can flow into this one and it's not gonna miss a beat. We just beef up the staff by 50% and boom, it's squared away. But if it's more geographically remote, we may have some other things we need to take into account. But the vote center utilization score would help us.
Yeah, I think when we send this spreadsheet, there's gonna be a lot of information on there. It's gonna show you the historic turnout, there's a lot, I mean, if you see their spreadsheet, it's big. And so what we're trying not to do is, especially with these low-hanging fruit, we're trying not to overwhelm you with information. Now, it's gonna get a little tougher, so now you need more information, so we're gonna give it to you. And so, my question though for next week is it helpful? We looked at these two locations and then we had another 50. Now we're kind of revisiting that location. Should we just do it in a group of 100? That we think we got through 100 today, or do we need to keep it in these smaller groups?
Smaller groups.
I think that the overlay in small groups where we have some questions or concerns, the overlay helps, but I think you could probably just give us raw batches and we can agree, we're gonna take this next 50, we're gonna take this next 100, and then we're gonna highlight these concern areas.
Yeah, the other thing, and Kevin, we can maybe speak to this, we can now publish a map. So you guys can kind of go in and look at the data yourself, where you can, online, where you can click on a location, see the data about the map. So Kevin, I know we're working on that. How are we thinking we can get that published in the next couple of days, or? I don't know. I mean, I know we're on it, but we've been preparing this information, but I don't know when it's gonna come, but it'll be available sometime soon, and hopefully before next Wednesday.
Or if we bring our computer next time, we can do it ourselves.
Yeah.
These are your highest performing in order, right?
Yeah.
So my question would be, you know, how are we giving you enough to cut? I mean, the whole purpose of this is to cut. How, I don't know that we're doing that.
Well, I mean, think about it this way. We've covered 100. We've probably eliminated how many? 10 out of 100.
Is that enough? I don't know.
I mean, these are high performing locations though, and so a lot of those were just from natural, people want to reject us and stuff. I think we're doing pretty well.
Okay.
I mean, I think when you get to the last couple hundred, you know, that's when you're gonna start seeing the, you know. I mean, what I don't want to do is to eliminate a high performing location. And then when we get to the tougher spots, what I also don't want to eliminate is a location where someone needs a little more location, so.
I have a timeline on when are we gonna finish surveying the sites, and are we having priorities to like the high performing ones?
Yeah, they're working from 1 through 500. They're working their way down. We're trying to pick up the pace a little bit and trying to get some more bodies on it. I think what you got for tomorrow, 20? So, and we want to be more like 30. 30, 40.
I guess like what I was trying to say was like there are some locations I wish that would be considered. So what do I do to make those locations to be considered as potential voting sites?
I think it would be helpful, especially as we get to, you know, area, I mean, when you get the mapping capabilities and you're familiar with an area and you say, oh, here's this school, it's okay, but hey, I know there's a place across the street that's way better. I mean, so if you guys know those locations, you know, we can consider them.
So
right now, we're just considering existing locations because that's the low-hanging fruit, but that doesn't mean they're the best location.
So when do we need to, I mean, when do you need for us to kind of suggest you those locations?
Anytime you got that information, provide it to us, and we'll maybe throw it into the mix.
I had a question.
So would it be helpful, who's doing the survey? Carl. Would it be helpful or would it get in your way if you see a list and you know the election judges and you have a relationship to reach out to you, I can help you make sure you get in through the survey? Like if if you're having a hard time getting to them. I know a lot of election judges like have really good relationships with.
Absolutely.
With facilities.
Yeah, but it's, some of the ISDs are having some issues.
Oh, that's a business story. Yeah.
And the ISDs, they might kind of happen all at once because they're kind of controlled from the power and then they just open it up and floodgate. Over here.
Okay, so we're evaluating these, starting with the highest performing and then dropping down, right? And so as we drop down to lower performing, I'm sure it's going to be possible that some of those lower performing that we'll look at are in the same vicinity as the higher performing, right?
Yeah.
Because right now we're just kind of comparing apples to apples. So at what point are we going to take a look at the entire snapshot of a grid of a specific geographical space and look at everything in that space? Because I think that we'll need to do that to make some hard decisions, right? Like, and I guess part two of that, right? Like we shut down 10 high performing, but do we have other low performing that are in that same area that would make actually more sense to shut those down and let them go to the higher performing that we shut down? So that's my question here.
Go ahead.
Daniel, we did that when we did this last May, the BSAC met last May. That's exactly what we did. We looked at, when we saw two locations that were close, just like what we're doing right now. We said, no, we can't close that because there's a creek that runs through the area and they can't get across it. So some people go here, some people go here. Same with a busy street. So we really did take that into consideration. Because we live here, we know the neighborhoods, and we know that's a walkable neighborhood, and that's where people go vote, so we don't want to lose that site.
Right. My point is that we're not seeing everything in that geographical area.
And I hear what you're saying, and see, that's because we're taking it in layers.
Yes.
And so we're taking it in layers to manage the process, but at the same time, we're not seeing the big picture, because more are being added to it. And so I think as we add to, so we got this high performing 500 location, and now we got this, we add a layer of, here's a 50, 2 blocks away. I think you might be saying, did we just get rid of that 50?
But it depends on.
Depends on other factors, right?
Exactly.
Yes, I think at some point we need to see everything in that geographical area. And it may seem like we're gonna have to do double work if we do it that way. I'm just bringing that up. It's different than what you're talking about.
I'm kind of hoping that as we give you an online map application, you can kind of do that homework prior to, where we can turn layers on and off. You can turn on the 50, 100, 150, right?
Okay.
Excuse me, Michael?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Cynthia O'Green joined the meeting a little late and she has a question.
Okay.
Hi, Michael. Yeah, I had some challenges, but I noticed on the list that Esmeralda sent, we're on group 3, the city of Hutchins, the community center. That is the city's only election day voting location, but it's marked in red as rejected. The Hutchins City Hall has always been early vote center. So, and we were eliminated off the list in 2019. So now Hutchins has no voting locations for early voting or election day.
I don't think we've discussed that one yet.
Okay. You've
Yeah,
assessed which one?
It was a survey result, and so we'll have to talk about it when we get to it. And because remember what we said, survey results are just one piece where we say there's some disqualifying factor. Can it be mitigated? Sometimes it can, sometimes it can't. So that's maybe when we got to shop for another location. Back here.
My last question.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
As we go along in this process, and you said we would go piece by piece, are we going to, and you had brought up census information. I think that might be good because an area like you had said, maybe this area is a small place, but if we go like into the census, maybe perhaps it's an area that services the elderly or people who have trouble getting around.
And we do have that information. So like, when we pull up two oranges and we're making a tough decision, we might say, Kevin, tell us more.
Right.
With Census Bureau.
And the same way I want to make sure and ensure that we address the issues of like, this community is Asian and this community is Italian or whatever. I want to make sure that even though that even though that polling place may be small, it may be so critical that that community needs that attention. So
Absolutely.
that will be some of the things we're going to look at. That's what my hopes are.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments, thoughts?
Okay, so when we go into the next phase where we talk about keeping all the locations, okay, because we're gonna look at that secondly, right? My thought is that, first of all, we keep up with the locations that have said, no, we can't use them anymore, or just wipe them off the map. But I think a quicker way to do that process is to look at, if we're gonna look at keeping them all open and then balancing the number of machines at each location, we could pretty much take that on just using math and.
So that's a great comment. And then here's what we have, what we didn't talk about tonight.
Okay.
But what we got in our spreadsheet is capacity. Because when we're measuring these room sizes, we're calculating how many machines can go in them. And so what we'll be able to tell you after today is what the approximate capacity of what you approved today in total voters. Now it's going to be, you got it now already?
112,445 voters. But that's, so for locations that we haven't done site surveys on, we're using the max turnout that it's experienced in a day.
So that number could go up.
Yes, absolutely.
I got a question. I know, Bonnie, you keep referencing the, last year we did all of this. You guys still have those comments that were made last time on the board?
I believe so. I know that we just forwarded the result of that was presented to Commissioner's Court previously. So I at least have that, yeah, Commissioner's Court.
Okay, because I did know there was some comments, like there was one place where people who were disabled, that was the only place the children felt comfortable going.
Yeah.
Just some things.
It's a good reference we can look back to. Yeah. Okay, anything else? Thank you so much. I can tell you before tonight, I was talking to Kevin about this. I said, we get through 50, I'm going to be disappointed. If we get through 100, I'm going to be happy. And if I get through 150, I'm going to be ecstatic. So I'm pretty happy. So thank you so much.
Sir, are we meeting next Wednesday?
We're meeting next Thursday because I'm going to be out of town next Wednesday and I want to make sure I'm fine.
Oh,
Okay.
next Thursday?
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm started homework late and he's got to isolate it and finish up. Yeah.
I got it.
But next time, let's look at next time.
We'll figure this out.
Okay.